But why do we have to be courageous to be curious? Well, I think that there's something much easier about acting as if we know all the answers than it is being open to the possibility that there may be something out there that we don't know. I think sometimes we are a little more sure of things because we don't really want to venture into the unknown, into that uncharted territory where often discomfort lies. When we don't know the answers to things, sometimes we get that discomfort within ourselves that we're like, I think I'd rather go back to where I'm comfortable. One of my sayings that I developed a long time ago when I was going through this is that transformation doesn't happen in our comfort zone. We don't ever change as long as we're comfortable. It actually takes a little bit of probing into the uncharted territory, into those things that we're not so sure about. And it takes a lot of courage to venture into this unknown area. We have to oftentimes confront our fears and our worries and our insecurities. Sometimes we have to challenge the status quo. We have to stir things up and get things moving around in a way that is not always comfortable for us. But it's in those moments of discomfort that we find the most profound opportunities for growth and for transformation. So as I said, we're living in the question here. And this idea of living in the question encourages us to embrace this uncertainty in a more profound way, and approach every experience with an open heart here. Now, I have a lot of resources that I use when I'm doing my talks, and I have a lot of Ernest Holmes resources. And so I was looking through there for quotes on curiosity, as I want to do. And I have a document that hits 450 pages of Ernest Holmes quotes that I can reference, that I look through. And when I can't find anything in there, then I go to his books. And I have 22 of his books on Kindle. And the reason I have them on Kindle is because I can search them. So in 450 pages of Ernest Holmes quotes and 22 of his books, I found 0 quotes on curiosity. I'm just saying. Now, this is the thing that I know. I know that Ernest Holmes was innately curious. I know that he could not have done what he has done and put all of this information together and synthesized all of these approaches to spirituality if he wasn't curious about them. But it wasn't something that he thought he needed to talk about, so there's not any references there. But I know that we are so much more fulfilled in our lives when we get into that place of being curious. When we can live in a question, when we can actually be with something and live in that question, in the wonder of it, in the doubt of it, in the insecurities that come up when we think about it. It actually lets us get away from that need to control, and it actually allows us to embrace that fluidity and complexity of life. We enter into the flow of life when we sit in the questions. If we think we know the answers to it, we are right there stuck and there's nothing moving. We know it, and that's all there is to it. And there's a great deal of comfort in knowing the answers. But there's so much more that's available to us when we open up to the possibility of something unfolding that we weren't expecting. You know, living in the question invites us to see our challenges as opportunities for growth, as opportunities for moving into a place that we weren't expecting to be there. We can begin to see our obstacles as stepping stones that will take us on that path of unfoldment, on that path of transformation. And we begin to see our failures as lessons in disguise. What is it? Thomas Edison is known for saying that he had 1,000 failed experiments before he discovered the light bulb. You know, I mean, there are so many beautiful gifts available to us when we fail at something. But if we think we know the answers and we think we have to control the situation, then we are not open to the possibility of something else existing there. As it says here, when we live in the question, we cultivate a sense of humility and curiosity, which opens us up. It opens us up to new ideas. It opens us up to new experiences. It gives us a different point of view. When we are curious about the people around us and open up to what's available for us to experience by getting to know someone who is different than us. What an amazing gift that is that we can give ourselves. And so how do we begin to live in this question and cultivate this courage to be curious? Well, the first thing comes again with, do we have the courage to live in the question? I love the work of Elizabeth Gilbert, and especially her book, Big Magic. And in there, she asked the question right at the very beginning of her book, do you have courage to bring forth the hidden treasure that's inside of you? Do you have the courage to open up to what might be possible that's awaiting inside of you, that's just waiting for the opening, for you to let it out? Imagine how our lives would be if we had the courage to open up and let out those things that are wanting to be birthed from within us. Cultivating that idea of courage. One of the things that we have to begin to do that is to embrace our vulnerability. We have to be willing to be vulnerable. We have to be willing to stand up and humiliate ourselves if necessary. We have to be willing to stand up and be laughed at. We have to be willing to stand up there and let people see the parts of us that we've kept hidden and deep so long. We must be willing to acknowledge our limitations. You know, we are not all coming here with every skill that we could possibly need. There are things that we need to learn and to grow. We have to admit when we don't have all the answers to the questions that are out there. And we have to be open to learning from other people and other situations and other experiences. If we're not curious about them, we are not open to learning. And there's not any change that's going to happen in our lives if we cannot have that curiosity. Now, people hear the word vulnerability and they think of weakness. They think of weakness. They think, I'm going to let somebody take advantage of me. I'm going to be weak somehow if I show my vulnerability. But vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It is actually a sign of strength. It is actually a sign of strength. When we are most vulnerable, we are showing that we are strong enough to withstand anything. That we are secure enough in who we are, that we're willing to be open and to allow ourselves to experience something that we couldn't anticipate. Being vulnerable is the willingness to step into the unknown despite the fears that we have about the situation. Despite the fear, we were willing to step into it. The next thing we have to do is we have to begin to reframe those mistakes that we have in our lives, things that have held us back, things that we might call setbacks, things that we didn't like the outcome that we have. We begin to reframe that and as I said earlier, learn to see the beauty in the lessons that we have from our failures. Learn to see what's available for us to know in the things that didn't succeed the way we might have wanted them to. Instead of seeing our failures as the final verdict there, that's it, I failed and there's nothing else that can happen, we can choose to view it as valuable information, like Thomas Edison did. This is information I need to know here. And it helps us course correct. It helps us change and grow. It helps us to see maybe where we took that misstep. We might see which stepping stone we might want to avoid the next time because it led us down a path that wasn't exactly what we wanted it to be. If we begin to look at every setback in our life as an opportunity to learn, to adapt, to become more resilient in the face of adversity, then we're going to have a better experience about that. The other thing we need to do is to develop that sense of curiosity and just sit and think about, well, I wonder what would happen if. I wonder what would happen if I tried it this way. I wonder what would happen if I let this happen. I wonder what would happen if I went right instead of left. You know, beginning to look at things in a sense of wonder and awe and curiosity about it. When we begin to do this on a daily basis, we can approach each day with a childlike curiosity, asking those questions, those really bold and energetic questions. We can explore new ideas, make new discoveries. Curiosity is the antidote to complacency. Curiosity is the antidote to complacency. If you are feeling stuck in any way in your life, in any area of your life, find a place where you can be curious about changing that and begin to see what opens up for you. Curiosity will keep us engaged in life. It will keep us inspired to move forward. And it opens us up to the endless possibilities that life has to offer us all of the time. We can do this by asking bold questions. Bold questions are those ones that really get to the meat of the matter, really get into it and figure out what is happening here for us that we need to change and we need to grow from. When we can begin to ask those questions and embrace that courage of curiosity, when we ask those bold questions, we begin to understand that life has so much more to offer us than our limited view of it right now could possibly bring to us. This idea of having the courage of curiosity and living in the question, it's not just a philosophical concept, but it's very practical. It's a practical way that can enrich our lives in profound ways. When we cultivate curiosity, when we embrace vulnerability, when we reframe our failures, we can begin to navigate life with a little more grace and a lot more resiliency. We bounce back from things a little more easily than we had before. Things don't bother us as much. You know, I'm sure most of us know somebody in our life that can just go through life and nothing ever seems to bother them. Not that everything goes right, but they seem to be happy and go lucky all the time. I know I kind of experience my life that way. I have failures, I have setbacks, I have challenges that come up, but I've learned to embrace the curiosity about what is this about for me? You know, as I talked about last week when our questions that we ask, instead of asking that question, why is this happening to me? I ask that question, what's here for me to know? There's a place of curiosity in that question. There's a place of wonderment. There's a place of opening myself up to what is available to me. When we begin to enter into this uncharted territory, these ideas that we can't even possibly imagine what the answer would be, and we have never even experienced it before, we open ourselves up to new and greater things in our lives. And I think that's what we're here about when we're here in life, is to open ourselves up to the experience of it, to experience it in all the different ways that we possibly can. There is something beautiful about curiosity. There's something beautiful there that allows us to see more than what is visible on the surface level. When we open ourselves up to asking those important questions, those bold, rich questions that will begin to open ourselves up to new and greater ways in life. So let's do a little experiment here. Like I often say, you know, this information is really good, but if you don't put it into action in your life, it really doesn't do you a whole lot of good. So I invite you right now to just bring to mind some kind of a challenge or situation you might be having right now. Doesn't have to be a big deal. Maybe you are just, have something that you need to change at your house, or maybe you've got something in work that's not happy about, or a relationship that's bothering you, or whatever. It can be anything. Just bring something to mind. And Joe, you got a little bit of music we can throw on here just to do a little meditation around this? I should have told him this before, but I didn't. Oh, see, he's always ready. Joe is the master. Thank you, Joe. All right, so I just invite you to just take in a nice breath. And now just bring to mind that situation, the challenge that you may be having right now. It doesn't have to be anything great or profound, but it could be a deep challenge. And let's begin being curious about this. First off, just ask yourself, what is the situation about for me? If it involves another person, you can't know the answer for that. But you can know what it is for you. So what is the situation about for me? What is available for me to know in this situation? How am I to grow through this challenge? And we can always conclude any experience like this by asking, is there anything else I need to know right now? So just take a moment. And if there's anything that you feel like you need to forgive in this situation, if it's yourself or if it's somebody else involved in it, just quietly say a statement of forgiveness. And just allow whatever that is to be released. And now let's top it off with a little gratitude for anything that's been revealed to you, for any answers you may have sought, or for just the opportunity to sit in the quiet and contemplate this challenge. And so just take in a nice deep breath. And bring yourself, your awareness back into this space. Notice the people around you, the sounds in the room. Every moment in our life is an opportunity for curiosity. Curiosity is where our passions lie. Elizabeth Gilbert says, you don't need passion to be curious, but you have to have curiosity to find your passion. And so open yourselves up to what is possible, what is available, what is the unknown for you in each of those moments. All right, let's take this into prayer. I invite our practitioners to stand. Holding us in consciousness throughout the week, these beloved souls devote themselves to the spiritual nurturement of this community. There's Reverend Richard. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And so we just take that moment and connect with that indwelling presence. I like to do this through my breath, knowing that just like my breath fills every cell, so does the divine. That one creative love intelligence, that one power and presence that has brought forth everything into existence, that one that is the fullness and the allness of all life, the beginning and the end, the circle and the circumference. I know that this one all-pervading presence has brought forth each one of us for us to allow it to experience life through us. I know that each one of us is a perfect and unique emanation of that one creative love intelligence. I know that each one of us is filled with that innate sense of curiosity, living in the question and allowing the question to live through us. And so knowing this, I speak my word of truth. I know that right here and right now is a perfect opportunity for each one of us to simply embrace the unknown, to embrace everything that is available to us as we open ourselves in vulnerability, in curiosity, opening ourselves to that wisdom that is inherent in all of creation. I know if we approach each creation with that wonderment and awe, asking those bold questions about what is here for me to know, I know that the answers are readily available to us. I know that in the stillness of our own minds, in the depths of our own hearts, Spirit speaks, and all is revealed. And how good it is to know this, how good it is to feel it, to see it happening in the lives of everyone around me. How good it is to know that this is the nature of the divine that is moving itself into expression through all of creation. And I simply release this word into that creative love intelligence that always says yes, that knows no limitations, that never experiences lack, that is simply fulfilling itself through each and every one of us. I let it go and I let it be. And together we say, so it is.